There is a map we all draw for our lives when we are young, a straight line, from where we are to where we are sure we are going. We trace it with such certainty, never imagining that destiny might have a different compass entirely. This is a story about one of those maps, and how it was redrawn by a force we can only call fate. His name was Leo, and he was a man who built his life like a fortress, stone by careful stone. He was an architect, a creator of order and logic. His dream was a clean, glass-walled firm in the city, his name in polished steel on the door. Every decision, every late night, every calculated risk was a brick laid squarely on the path to that future. He was not unkind, but he was focused, his eyes fixed so firmly on the horizon that he often missed the world at his feet. He was engaged to a woman named Clara, whose own dreams were painted in softer, warmer colors. Colors Leo was too busy to truly see. He loved the idea of their future, a perfect picture in the album of his life, but he was forgetting to live the moments that would fill it. And then, the earthquake. It did not come from shifting tectonic plates, but from a single sheet of paper in a doctor's hand. A diagnosis, a word he had only ever heard in movies, a word that now had his name written on it. The world, so solid and predictable just moments before, turned to liquid. The fortress of his future trembled, and the straight line of his map simply ended in a blank space of terrifying uncertainty. The treatment was harsh, a brutal assault on his body meant to save it. The firm was put on hold. Clara tried to hold his hand, but his was too weak, and hers was too afraid. The perfect picture faded, and in its place was the sterile, cold reality of a hospital room. It was in that room, in the deepest trench of his despair, that Leo truly met Arthur. Arthur was his roommate, an old man with a body as frail as a bird's, but with eyes that held an impossible twinkling light. Where Leo saw an ending, Arthur seemed to see a fascinating new beginning. He was a storyteller, and in the long, silent hours between treatments, he began to tell Leo stories. Not fairy tales, but stories from his own long, winding life. Stories of love lost and found, of chances taken and missed, of small, quiet moments of breathtaking beauty that had defined him more than any grand achievement. At first, Leo listened out of mere politeness, a distraction from the pain. But slowly, Arthur's words began to seep into the cracks of his broken spirit. Arthur spoke of a sunset in the desert that had healed a broken heart, of a stranger's kindness that had changed the course of a day, and therefore a life. He spoke not of building monuments, but of collecting moments. "We think we are architects of our lives, Leo," he said one evening, his voice a soft rasp, "but we are really gardeners. We can till the soil and plant the seeds, but we cannot command the sun to shine or the rain to fall. Our job is to tend, to care, to be present for the miracle of growth, whatever form it takes." These words settled in Leo's soul. He looked at his own hands, hands that had wanted to shape steel and glass, and realized they had never truly held on to anything real. He thought of Clara, and the way her laughter used to make him feel, a feeling he had filed away as unimportant next to a business plan. He started to write to her. Long, rambling emails from the depths of the night, not about his illness, but about his regrets. He wrote about the picnic he'd cut short for a conference call, the vacation he'd postponed, the thousand tiny ways he had chosen his ambition over their love. He didn't ask for forgiveness. He simply offered the truth of his heart, a heart he was only now learning to listen to. A strange thing began to happen. As his body fought its internal battle, his spirit began to change. The relentless drive that had defined him softened, replaced by a profound sense of presence. He noticed the way the light slanted through the blinds in the afternoon, painting gold on the floor. He found himself genuinely listening to the nurses, hearing the stories of their lives, their own struggles and joys. He and Arthur would play chess, and Leo, the master strategist, learned to lose with grace, finding more joy in the conversation than in the victory. He was no longer building a fortress, but cultivating a garden, just as Arthur had said. He was tending to the small, fragile shoots of connection, of gratitude, of simply being alive. Clara began to write back. Her words were cautious at first, then warmer, then filled with a love he realized had been waiting for him all along, if only he had paused long enough to feel it. She started visiting, and their conversations were different. They were not about the future, but about the now. They talked about the book she was reading, the song on the radio, the simple, profound miracle of a good day. The love that had been a static picture in an album became a living, breathing thing in that hospital room, more real and more powerful than any dream of a glass-walled firm. After many months, Leo received the news that his body was in remission. The war was not over, but a crucial battle had been won. The day he was discharged was a bright, crisp morning. He stood outside the hospital, a free man, and the world seemed both the same and utterly new. The air was sweeter, the colors were brighter. He had his health, he had a second chance, but he knew he could never go back to the old map. It had been burned away in the fire of his suffering. He did not return to his old firm. Instead, he took a small inheritance and, with Clara by his side, he bought a neglected piece of land on the outskirts of the city. People thought he was mad, but Leo knew exactly what he was doing. He became a gardener. He didn't build with steel and glass. He built with soil and seed, He created a community garden, a place of green and growing things, a sanctuary for people who needed a quiet place to remember what mattered. He named it Arthur's Garden, and sometimes, in the quiet of the evening, he would sit on a simple wooden bench and tell stories to the people who came. He would tell them about an old man in a hospital room who taught him that destiny is not a destination we race towards, but a landscape we learn to walk through with open eyes and an open heart. He learned that the most profound changes are not the ones we plan, but the ones that break us open, allowing a new, more authentic version of ourselves to emerge. His great destiny was not the skyscraper with his name on it. It was the whisper of the wind through the sunflowers, the grip of Clara's hand in his, and the profound understanding that the most beautiful things we ever build are not made of stone, but of moments connected by the unbreakable thread of hope. His life was no longer a straight line, but a wild, beautiful, and unpredictable garden. And he would not have had it any other way.